And ladies and gentlemen, you are here for accessibility, making your resources available to everyone with Debbie Jensen. Debbie, take it away.
Thank you. Let me bring up my slides. Right. We will begin. Maybe we'll begin. There, now we'll begin. Okay. Does everybody see it?
We
Okay.
do, and we also see your notes if you
You're
want
seeing the
that.
wrong screen. Okay.
Okay.
So let's change that. Right. Share screen. We're going to share. Okay. That better?
Much better.
Okay. Oh, if it can be done wrong, I will. And I've realized in my life that that's not a bad thing, because then I can really point out what not to do. All right. Excuse me. Glad to see you here. We don't have a very large group, so if you have a question, just don't worry about it. Just go ahead and unmute and ask it, so that we can answer your question as we go. All right. This presentation is accessibility, making your resources available to everyone. And then this next thing is called a numeronym. I didn't know they existed. I'm in the synonym antonym mode. But there's numeronyms, which include numbers, and what they are is for big words. And so the A stands for the beginning letter, the Y stands for the ending letter, and there's 11 letters in between. Therefore, the numeronym that you will maybe see sometimes standing for accessibility is A11Y. All right. We experience more and more technology in our lives, and it's wonderful. I mean, the things that we do with our phone now that could never have been done before are amazing and wonderful. But we also need to realize that that very technology can help us make the world of information accessible to those who suffer from disabilities. And so that's what we're going to be looking at today. We're going to be looking at the things that can be done to help improve accessibility for those who have disabilities. My name is Debbie Jensen. I started in adult ed in 1987, and since then have worked in a whole lot of programs, just about every single one that's in adult ed. And over 10 years ago, I started working with OTAN, which is what I'm still doing today. I retired from my job after 33 years, and now I devote myself to OTAN and my grandkids who live with me. Done a lot of things with OTAN, and so there's so much available with OTAN. That's what's really cool. There's online courses. There's teaching with technology. There's the Triple E framework course, which if you have never heard of, something you should get involved with, because it's a wonderful framework that helps teach teachers how to use technology so that it accomplishes your teaching goals, not just tech. That's cool. Also, I work with CK12, and I'm presenting on that tomorrow. So if you're looking for free online resources, books, but they're flex books, and so they're filled with videos and pictures and activities and all sorts of things, and they're wonderful. And they joined us 2 years ago, and now they include adults. So OTAN's proud of that partnership that we made. So that's also available, and I love Google. Use Google all the time. I'm a certified, that's the first level. I've forgotten the name of the certification, but anyway, I love it and used Google Classroom extensively while I was still teaching. So that is me. Now let's look at what we're doing today. We need to know why accessibility is important. We're going to take a look at how California stacks up. What are our issues? I want to teach you to fish, because I think it's a useful image of when you fish to be successful. If you have a great tackle box with lots of good stuff, you're going to be more successful. And so that's how I look at accessibility. You need a lot in your tackle box. So we're going to look at that. We're going to take an experience, a screen reader. We're going to look at what POUR is, P-O-U-R. because it's kind of a overview of all of the things we need to look at to deal with accessibility. For me, I'm going to be demonstrating, because that's important for you to see how to do it, in Microsoft. But I also, for me, it's even more important to let you know of all of the resources that are out there. There's no way that an hour and a half can do anything except let you know where to get started. And so that's what we're going to do. And I do want to answer questions as we go. So let's move on. Okay. The first question that we have to ask is why? And why do we have this need? The World Health Organization reports that 1 billion people on Earth live with a disability. 360 million with a hearing disability, 285 million with a vision disability, 386 million working people with disabilities. Now in the US, it's 61 million adults live with a disability, and 26%, that's about 1 in 4, have some type of disability. Let's go down further. In California, 24% of adults have some type of disability. So let's think about that. Some of the disabilities may be so simple, things like just needing to have magnification to be able to see it better. And if you think about it, how many of you use the, you squeeze on the screen of your phone to be able to see something better? So you're using accessibility tools to enhance your experience. So instead of thinking narrowly about, okay, people that have a diagnosed disability, a lot of these things include all of us. And if we don't have the issue all the time, you're going to get it as you get older, because there's some of these things are just getting more and more important to me as I get older. Now, the second reason that the second answer to the why is that it's the law. All right, now we're going to go and zero down a little further into California, and we're looking at how it breaks down. Okay, so we're seeing that we have 11% mobility, 11% cognition, 5% independent living, 5% hearing, 5% vision, and 4% self-care. And when you look at those, some of those you might say, well, I'd never really thought of that as a disability. But it is. These things impair the ability people have to be able to function, whether it is to get up and get going to work because there's something they can't do. Years ago, the first focus of the law was to make buildings accessible to wheelchairs. And so for years, you were seeing ramps, and then you were seeing curbs that were lowered so that wheelchairs could go places. So that's where it started and focused, but now it's expanding to make things available for everyone on the internet as well. Now, if we're looking at the law, there's been laws that have been on the books for a while. You've heard of some of them. Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. Now, that's a long time ago. The Americans with Disabilities Act. And there's new ones that you may not be quite as aware of, like WCAG, which stands for Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. In the 90s, they were really looking to try and find ways to make people have accessibility for information. Originally, the law targeted federal government information. But then Congress passed a law that said that it was going to be for anybody who has funding. And so that's schools. We get funding from the government. And so the law suddenly applied to us. And it's expanding. People, I think for the longest time, didn't take much notice of it because there was nobody getting in trouble with it. But then when there started being lawsuits that came forth, the one in Sacramento with Domino's Pizza, and their online app was not accessible. And they lost. And so businesses started really perking up and saying, oh my, I guess this is something we've got to do. And the same thing's true with the schools. They are now starting to pay attention. Now let me ask a couple questions. How many of you are content creators? Go ahead and put it in the chat. You create, it could be websites, but it could be documents. It could docs, slides, any of that, content creators. Okay, so it's looking like most of us. All right. Now, how many of you have had somebody ask you if your documents are 508 compliant? Have you had someone approach you, a student, an administrator, anybody? Okay, I've got a no. Okay, we have yes. An administrator. Oh, that's always uncomfortable. Not yet. I think that's a good answer. And Jill, right? Only OTAN people. It will come, because this is where the focus is shifting to. And so the problem then is that because many of us have had nobody ask us about this, we don't know it's a problem we've got. And so we're not doing anything about it. Some agencies are starting to create policies and methods of how they're going to attack this, but not so many. Because OTAN has federal funding, we had to. And so for the last few years, it's been fascinating to watch how the website has changed and how even the different parts within the website have had to redo their materials to make them accessible. So it is coming. We will all be there. Thank you, Melinda. It's required by all CDE and CA leadership projects. Yeah, so California projects, it is coming. So with that in mind, sorry, went too fast. I want to share with you this picture. I loved it when I saw it because it really represents everything. She's taking a hike, but the path wasn't designed for her. But she's still going to manage. She's still going to do it. She's still going to take her hike. I have had disabled students in my classroom. They're bright, they're happy, they're excited. They want to be able to access everything. They're appreciative of everything you do. They're some of the hardest working students that I've ever had. And so as we make our classrooms and our documents and all the things that we do accessible for them, it will not only improve the class for them, but it will also improve the class for everyone. The best practices that you're going to use for accessibility will be useful for everyone in your class. So that's where we're going. Now, this image of the lock and the key was striking to me. According to usability.gov, accessible sites present information through multiple sensory channels, such as sound and sight. They allow for additional means of site navigation and interaction beyond the typical point and click interface, keyboard-based control, and voice-based navigation. The combination of a multi-sensory approach and a multi-interactivity approach allows disabled users to access the same information as non-disabled users. Now, that's a mouthful, because we're just trying to get the information out. And now you're saying you want it in multiple forms, multiple channels, multiple navigation methods. And so it's like, oh, this is just getting worse. This presentation is getting really hard. But the good news, and there is good news, people have been working at this for years. And through their help, much of what we need to do is just learn how to do it, because it's already been done behind the scenes. We're going to be looking at Microsoft today because they've been at it a long time. A lot of others are getting on board now and are starting to do it, and that just means we need to have more webinars about those. We're going to look at Microsoft today because it has a lot in place. Now, Penny Pearson, our retired OTAN Distance Learning Projects Coordinator, was the person who first introduced me to accessibility. And I remember the first meeting, and I was not particularly excited and accepting and happy. I was more mortified because it was everything she described that you could do wrong, I was doing. I was creating my documents wrong, all of it. And I was stunned. Well, what am I supposed to do now? Now, the good news is from that time to today, a lot has changed. And Microsoft has made things so that when I demonstrate them to you, you're going to say, well, I could do that. Oh, okay. So it's an awareness and then searching for how they want it done so that we can make our documents accessible to readers. That's what we're after. Those that are blind use readers that allow them to be read to whatever's on the page. But as these, like Microsoft has created internally, things like headers and styles, those readers can read those and they will read them then to the person that's listening. And that allows them to navigate through the entire document. When you see something on the screen, you kind of glance through it, you scan it, and you say, okay, that's what I'm interested in. That's what a table of contents is in a book. I mean, you can just grab the book and just kind of do a scroll, with your finger and just thumb through it to get an idea. But the table of contents will really give you what's there. If you're blind, you can't do any of that. But readers have made that possible, and that's truly remarkable. And so what we're trying to do is use the reader and use its abilities so that we can then help our students. So what we're going to look at today is getting you a tackle box filled with a lot of things. Okay, first thing, we're going to see what a screen reader sounds like and what happens with it. Okay.
People often ask what difference it makes if a document is accessible, or they say they know that there is no one with a disability that will be receiving their content. There are no guarantees. Documents are often shared among others. You don't want an inaccessible document attributed to your name or your company. Additionally, many accessibility features actually benefit and improve the reading experience for everyone. Today we want to simulate what someone who uses a specific type of assistive technology, a screen reader, encounters when they access a poorly structured document. Then we'll show you what their experience is like once the document has been made accessible. Keep in mind that screen readers are just one type of assistive technology. There are many different types of disabilities and subsequently many varying technologies for people to use and experience content. In this video, Cami, one of our Section 508 specialists, is going to walk you through two scenarios to demonstrate the impact of creating accessible materials.
First, take a look at this PDF. We have colored large text, graphics, a process flow, lists, and link text. What else do you see? Now we're going to simulate using a screen reader by covering up the document. This is how someone using a screen reader would experience it.
Interacting with kids. Kids can be of any age. Sing a song. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall, semicolon. Have a treat. Select a graphic item. Bowl and French graphic fries. Bowl and iced graphic cream. Enjoy the graphic flavor. Travel to graphic McDonald's. Activities and play. Try some of these, play a board game. Make a paper plate mask. Go to the park. Send us an email to get more great ideas. Graphiclogo.jpg.
Was that what you expected to hear? Was all the content read? Clearly, this page was not created in an accessible manner. Now let's listen to how the screen reader interprets the content now that we've remediated the document.
Graphic ABC interactive logo. Heading level 1 interacting with kids. Kids can be of any age. Heading level 2 sing a song. Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall, semicolon. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. Heading level 2 have a treat. Graphic acquiring the treat process. See next page for full description. Heading level 2 activities and play. Try some of these : list of 3 items. Start bullet, play a board game. Start bullet, make a paper plate mask. Start bullet, go to the park. List end. Send us a link email. To get more great ideas.
You should have noticed that the screen reader said heading before the colored phrases. The graphic had a meaningful description and was read in the proper order at the top of the page. The column content was read in the proper order. There was a list that included the number of total items. A link was indicated so that we can activate it with the keyboard. And our process flow had a brief description but indicated that there's a long description available. So that you can review one method of handling complex graphics, we're going to show you one example of how to handle the graphic in this document.
Heading level 2 acquiring the treat process. List of 3 items. 1. Travel to McDonald's. 2. Select an item. List of 2 items. Nesting level 1. A. French fries. B. Ice cream. List end. Nesting level 1. 3. Enjoy the flavor.
A numbered list structure was used to show order, and a sublist helps identify the hierarchy of the content. Hopefully you can see how important it is to structure your content. This kind of structure can be applied to all Office documents and PDFs.
Okay, what did you get? What new insights or what resonated with you from the video? The audio is too loud, too low, or high? Oh, Melinda's.
That was just a tech suggestion. Debbie,
Yes.
would you like people to unmute to ask their questions?
Yes, you
instead of
can.
chatting?
We have a small group, so go ahead, unmute, and let's. What did you get from this? It might not be the first opportunity you've had to listen to a screen reader.
I'll get the ball rolling. I didn't realize when I first saw this many months ago that headings were so important. That using the styles for the headings, normal text, were so important to a screen reader.
It's how they organize everything.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize the numbering in the bullets, that, okay, these are ones that are consecutive. These are ones that are going to just be items that I can pick from, but these it gives information. And so that was interesting to me. Anyone else?
Jill typed that I have to use those styles options when creating.
Right. And it's much easier if you start it from that end. I mean, going back and remediating takes time. And so if from the beginning, if you understand that headings are important and they're going to be critical for a screen reader, then it helps. So that was something I learned too. Remediation takes a long time if you have to go back and fix something.
I'm surprised that there's an option for longer descriptions of the flowchart options that the student can choose. I didn't know that. And I'm interested to learn how to do that.
The more I learn, the more I know that there's more I need to know.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. Anyone else? All right, let's.
Moving along to the next scenario, we also.
There, okay. When they started working with accessibility, there are so many issues. I cannot imagine when they'd get everybody in the room that it was just everybody having so much to say. So what they have created is an acronym that is POUR, and it stands for principles that are perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. Each of these elements then has things to consider. So let's just look at them and get an idea.
Many of the authoring tools available to educators now include options for adding accessibility into the content creation workflow. And standards such as the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines provide guidance for how to do so. However, these guidelines often include technical language that can be confusing to even veteran developers. Fortunately, a set of simpler principles, as captured by the acronym POUR, provide a better starting point. POUR stands for Perceivable, Operable, Understandable, and Robust, 4 qualities that define an accessible user experience. Perceivable content is presented in a way that it can be accessed with more than one sense. This accounts for both the needs of people with disabilities and those who are accessing the content in less than optimal environmental conditions. One example is the inclusion of closed captions and transcripts for video content. This will make the video more accessible to people who are deaf and hard of hearing. It will also make it possible for anyone to enjoy the content in loud environments where it would otherwise be inaccessible, such as while commuting on a train or a bus. Operable content in digital materials can be operated with a variety of input methods, ranging from the mouse to the keyboard and even speech commands. It also means options for navigation are provided. If the content of a digital material is marked up correctly, screen reader users can use a keyboard shortcut to bring up a list of headings. Using these headings, they can skip to the desired section without the need to listen to an entire page. Understandable content in digital materials is presented in a logical and predictable way as the user navigates through its various sections, and supports for language, such as explanations of unfamiliar terms, are included or easily accessible. Robust digital materials are compatible across platforms and work well with a range of assistive technologies. Designing digital materials according to widely supported standards will make it more likely that these materials will continue to work as intended as new delivery technologies are adopted. The 4 POUR principles apply to both teacher-created and procure educational materials, whether they are commercially acquired or open educational resources. When selecting or purchasing digital materials and technologies, use the power of the market. Call on developers and publishers to add accessibility at the source. This will ensure accessibility is built in rather than bolted on after materials have shipped, and the process of retrofitting becomes more costly and difficult. The PALM initiative can help you with language you can include in your contracts. By addressing the need for accessibility at the source with developers and publishers, you will add your voice to a national movement that seeks greater equity in education. The National Center on Accessible Educational Materials at aem.cas.org is your go-to resource for technical assistance. Together, we can develop and use learning materials that address learner variability and provide better opportunities for learning to all.
What did you think? Or what did you learn? One of the things I recognized is that I didn't turn on the closed captions. So then I am not addressing the accessibility. And so when you show a video to your class, you've got to remember to turn the closed captions on. That will help students that are having troubles. It's great for ESL. It's great for a lot of people, I think. Any other points that you got from the video?
Yeah, I didn't realize that a lot of the things that we kind of take for granted are things that we need to be implementing and making sure that our students understand or know how to access as well, or can grab that information as well. Like it's easy for me to look at something and think, oh yeah, I understand that, I can read that fine, but I don't. It's important to take a step back and think of our students as well, and that's something that I kind of just let go, kind of just brush it to the side or don't think about consciously. So yeah, it's cool to bring it to my attention now and be intentional with when I'm creating content for them.
Great, I agree with you. I think becoming aware is the first step.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Yeah, very good. Anyone else? All right, so
Debbie, I'm sorry, I couldn't unmute fast enough. This is Melinda, and I'm sorry. You know, it just occurred to me that some of our students might not know that they can ask for the closed captions to be turned on. Teacher, can you turn on the closed captions? I can't hear that well. Or they might, you know, they might be too embarrassed, or they might not know that they can ask for that. So, I mean, that's when you said you didn't turn on closed captions, I'm like, oh wow, what if I was a student and I was too embarrassed to ask? So it should be something that we just do first.
absolutely. I think it's also important to let the students know what's out there. And there's one of the resources that I'm going to show you that does that. It's kind of like you're educating the student about the tools that are available to them. And I guarantee there's tools that you just didn't even know existed. So that's very, very exciting. And making it so that they can apply what they learn in your class to other places. You've empowered them to be successful, and that's really cool. All right, so just some more examples of these POUR principles. Make sure learners can see and hear your content. This is under perceivable. Add alternative text to images and other visuals. Remember how in the first one, they just, every time they hit an image, they would say the word image because nothing had been written to tell them what it was. And so that's what the person is hearing from their screen reader. Closed captioning videos and provide transcripts, provide sufficient color contrast between text and its background, and avoid content that can trigger seizures. Under operable, make sure learners can interact with your content with a variety of tools. If one thing's not working for them, they have another one to choose. Provide clear structure with properly marked up headings. Create descriptive links that make sense out of context. Provide sufficient time for interaction and response. Now this one, when COVID hit, and from Friday to Monday, suddenly you've got all your students online. I had a Google Classroom, so they were already kind of aware of how to use things online. And because they were used to it, I thought everything was going to be smooth sailing. But I forgot that they were accessing things on a phone. And so I would move through things quickly, and I didn't allow them time to do the scrolling and the finding so that they could be with me. So time is really important. They're going to need it, especially when they're on different devices than what you're on. Make sure that the content does not rely on color alone. We'll look at that one again. Understandable. Make sure that learners can understand your content and enjoy a predictable experience. I always thought it was cool to offer variety. But for someone who is trying to access your information, a predictable experience so that they know that this information that they're going to need is always going to be in the upper right-hand corner, or it's always going to be over here and they're going to be able to find it. That's important. Clarify expectations through clear directions and models. Follow conventions to ensure a predictable and consistent experience. Use plain language. I was just working with the people at CK12, and we were creating a course, and I'm going through and I'm talking about ESL and ABE and CTE, and they were very polite, but eventually they kind of raised their hand and said, we don't understand what you're referring to. Our students are the same. There are things that we say, jargon, if you will. Make sure that they have access to that. And in some of our things, I'm thinking of CK12, they can actually highlight a word and the definition will come. And so looking at the words that you use, putting that in, that's going to be helpful. And indicate the language of your content. That's for the screen reader so it knows what to access. And robust. Ensure that your content works well with current and future technologies. It's going to be hard. We don't know what the future is, but if you're paying attention, just recently someone gave me a CD of stuff I needed to learn and work with. I don't have a CD player anymore. My computer no longer has a DVD player. Things are changing. And so we need to know that because we need to know what they have access to. Add metadata to make content easier to find and use. That's another discussion, but it's available. I have learned this in family history that in a photograph, you can put as information about that photo, dates, people, what occurred. And it doesn't show on the picture at all. It's accessed through the metadata. That's powerful. And if we can do that with the things that we've got for these students, they'll be able to use it. Perform an accessibility check and perform basic assistive technology testing. See how it's going to look on these different devices. Okay. Microsoft currently leads in providing accessibility tools. And that lead is getting narrow and narrow as everybody gets on board and is adding stuff. But they provide you for the learners, but they also provide for the creators. And that's nice. They'll let you know in the accessibility check the errors, the warnings, and the tips to be able to correct anything that's happening. That being said, they're not everything. We're going to see some places where they're trying to help, and it's kind of funny how they do it because it doesn't help at all. but we can learn the tools that they have available. And if you use the tools, like when you use the PowerPoint and you use one of their placeholders, those screen readers go right there. And if something's there, they can use them. So as we learn these things, we can use them better. So let's take a look at some of the things that are available and things we're going to look at. Okay, and then we're going to use them. All right. Use the built-in headers and styles. Okay, because as you saw, the screen reader's looking for them. Make sure your fonts are larger than 12 and that they are without serifs, which are those little design features on the end of letters that make them look really nice. Don't use the italics and uppercase for emphasis. When you do spacing, don't just hit the enter key. Okay, I need more space between this paragraph and the last one. Don't do that. That's done for you if you use the paragraph formatting. Then the spaces will be proper and they won't say space, space. All right, use alt text on all images. Don't use text boxes, word art, or watermarks. Those are hard for the screen readers. Columns, there are columns that are made for you by Microsoft Word, and that's what you should use. Don't create them yourself using the tab key. And tables, this one, use tables only for data. They have features to make it so that the table will be readable. But the big deal for me is how many times did I use a table for a display purpose, like put an image somewhere and then erase the lines so that the image is where I want it. That doesn't work with screen readers, so use it just for data. Also, it has to be screen reader accessible, okay? Use colors, be aware of color contrast. And at first you're kind of puzzled by it, but you get a hang of it. And I will show you a document I found yesterday on Halloween that I was going to use with my grandkids. It's not accessible through color contrast, and pretty interesting. Don't have color convey meaning. So in other words, all of the right answers are, let's say all the questions are in blue and all the answers are in red, because somebody who is colorblind, they can't tell. So don't have color give meaning. Have digital alternatives for printed copy. Your classroom is so much more powerful today than it was 15 years ago when you had textbooks, because now those textbooks can be online and they can have a screen reader and they can then participate. So have alternatives, digital alternatives for printed copy. Use hyperlinks that make sense. We will be looking at this, but saying click here, no. Also, if you cut and paste the URL, the screen reader will read the entire URL. So it'll say https:// and then every letter that's in that address. That's got to be painful. So use something meaningful like the name of the place that you're going, Khan Academy, something like that. Provide a table of contents. The good news is if you use headings, it's already created for you. You just have to have Microsoft put it into your document. Use the accessibility checker, and then you can test with the immersive reader. My experience with this, I had to tell you because it just happened a week ago. I call it success and failure. I turned on the immersive reader and I pulled up a study guide that I had created for one of my courses in Moodle that I'm transferring over to Canvas. And in the course, I had lines for the students to write on. Well, this is how the immersive reader read it. Part 1, underscore, 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 underscore. And I just started laughing. So good news for me, I went back and erased all of the underlining, because that's not useful. I also, in this document, there were no headers. And so they couldn't get from one place to the other easily. And so I changed those things. I also put in links that were meaningful so that they could then know where they were going when they got to that place. All right, let's look at PowerPoint. Everything we said about Word's true, but there are also are built-in slide designs where there's a title and there's a subtitle and images, page numbers. These things can be there. And if you use them, then the screen reader moves through easily. Slide reading order. We're going to look at this. This one's changed over time. But what this does is it makes it so that the screen reader doesn't just start at the upper left and move down to the lower right. The screen reader moves to whichever part that you want him to do. And of course, you want the title first, and then the subtitle, and then the text, and maybe the description of the picture. That's what slide reading order is. You want to be in control of that because you want them to look and see what you want them to look and see. Slide animations and transitions, not good. Slide reader, they don't use those screen readers. Text in an image, like if you use a screenshot and it's got text, they can't read that. And so you're going to have to address that, put that text somewhere so that in the alt text or whatever, so that they then have the same experience. Use captions, subtitles, alternative audio tracks for video. Use alt text for all the videos and alternative sources for information. Like if you've got a graph and they can see all the information, if they can see. But you could also include a chart that has that information because the chart then will move through the information and then they have the experience of seeing the data as well. Also, the accurate hyperlinks, don't say click here. Sufficient color sufficient color contrast. Each slide needs a unique title. And again, I have messed up on every one of these because they're going to use the titles to move around quickly. And if you have two slides with the same name, that doesn't work. Also, if you leave the title out, that doesn't work. Now that's a problem because if you have a picture that you like, just the picture, that's all you want. You don't want some title messing it up. You're feeling that your artistic abilities are being kind of stopped. But there's ways we can deal with that. They have what they call a hidden title so that it's hidden from the person who is cited. But for the person using the screen reader, they hear that title. So they have the description of what's there. Use your tables, but keep them simple. You can't have blank holes in the table for the content. Okay, so it has to be something that's going to be something the screen reader can read. The good news is there's a lot of instructions out there on how to do it. Make sure your fonts are 18 at least. That's the smallest, and that you've checked and used the accessibility checker. All right, this is about color contrast. I do not believe that we will have time today to use it. That will be a part 2 when we actually use this, but I wanted you to see it so you saw how simple it is to check. So we're going to watch this.
Hello everyone, my name is Kevin Kleppe, and today I want to talk to you guys about a really cool program called Color Contrast Analyzer that you can use to check the color contrast of your graphics and your documents that you're using to promote either events or information in relation to the campus. If you want to download this, it's free. It's available for Windows and Mac, and you can get it from the URL that you see on your screen. Also, if you type in Color Contrast Analyzer into a Google search, it should be one of the first results that you see on your screen. It's a really good tool, it's a really easy tool to use, and it's great for checking to make sure that the color contrast of your graphics are good to go and that they should be accessible. It's so simple that there are really only 2 things you have to do. First, you have to check the foreground color of whatever the text is that you're using to promote your material. All you got to do that is click on this little dropper right here. You'll click that, select the text that you want to check. You'll get the hex value for that color and this F value that you see right here. You come down to the background color, you click the dropper, you select the background color that you want to check the foreground color against, click, and what you see down here is the result of that check. Now, if you're looking at these and you're thinking to yourself, what are the WCAG values? WCAG stands for Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, and they're a set of guidelines that you can use to make sure that the material and information that you're using to promote yourself, your department, or an organization is accessible and it's good to go. For right now, all you have to pay attention to is the color contrast values for this, and more specifically, just make sure that you're at least passing the minimum, which is the AA standards right here. You don't have to pass the AAA standards if you don't want to, but you do need to, at the very least, pass the AA standards. So if I were to use a secondary color, such as, oh, let's see here, let's use the exact same color actually for the foreground as well as the background. Because they match exactly, that is not good color contrast. They would blend in perfectly with one another, which means that everything on here fails. If I were to change the foreground color back to white, just like that, everything is now passing. Now, again, you don't have to worry about the AAA standards right here, but you do need to worry about the AA standards that are right here. This program is, again, free, just that easy to use. If you have any questions, be sure to get in contact with us. You can get in contact with me at kevin.kleppe, that's spelled CLEPPE, at csusb.edu. If you have any questions about either downloading this or using this. And that's as simple as it gets, really. That's all there is to the program. If you have any questions, be sure to reach out to us, and thank you for listening. Bye.
Now, the first time I used that, I got confused as to the little droppers because they're so tiny and how to use them. And then when you find that you failed, what do? Okay. But again, we need to have a part 2 so that we can discuss ways to correct it. You can, if you are the creator, you can change the color, darken it or lighten it, whichever you need to do. If you're trying to go back and remediate, it's a little harder, but there are things that you can do. All right. Now, at this point, I want to show you these things, but I'm going to show them to you. We're here. All right. So the first thing I want to start with, okay. You have all been, I hope, to the OTAN website. Now, on the OTAN website, there's a couple things I want you to be aware of. Melinda's right there. That's a good thing to be aware of. But right up here in the upper left-hand corner, and you're going to see this more and more as websites start addressing accessibility. If I click on that, it opens up some choices, and they're cool. They're cool for everyone, not just, but definitely let your students know about it. What happens if you want this to be a larger font? What happens if you, I'm going to go back to the normal font. What happens if you need the high contrast mode so that you can read it better? What happens if you'd like the links colored so that they can be found easier? Let's go back to taking things back. There we go. What happens if you're colorblind? You're not going to see the links in the different colors. See, like here where it says Cape Summit, that's a link, but you're not going to see it because you're not seeing blue. And so here you can underline the links. Isn't that clever? So small things teach your students, but those are available for your students so that they can see things and experience things better. Now, up here at the top, under resources, the second one that's under here says accessibility resources. And these are phenomenal. I have been working with this and gathering, and I will show you my website so you know where to get this presentation and things that I've gathered. But when I saw this, I said, they've got hands down. Okay, so I'm just going to show you a few of them. All right, here is accessible Word document checklist. Going down, here's the PowerPoint one. So you've got both of them so that you can remind yourself what you need to do with each of your documents. Okay. There's a tech talk here that you can watch again and see. This tells you what I just showed you, but it's actually in printed form. So it's that little menu that is up at the left side, and it tells you what each one does so that you can teach that to your students. You have it ready. There are so many good ones here. I'm just going to show you some that really, really stood out to me. You can spend hours learning about accessibility, and that's a good thing because you will learn much and you'll feel more comfortable and less frustrated. This is done by the people that created POUR, And so every single one of them, they have links to teach you about how to do perceivable, how to do operable, understandable, robust, and other useful resources. Very, very good. This one is my favorite right now. Now, my favorite changes all the time, but this is my favorite right now because it's good everywhere. Getting started, defining accessibility. What's your role? Things to acquire that you might be useful for you. Create, designing for accessibility, making accessible documents, making accessible video. They have one just about working with math, which is always good. Okay, here is personalizing the experience. And this was amazing to me. Personalizing the reading experience, customizing the display for information. And they're telling you what Apple does, what Microsoft Edge does, what Google Chrome does. These things already have features. Your students may not know anything about them. I didn't know anything about them, but we can help them. They talk about what e-readers will do and what helps. And then they have this section using Read Aloud and tell you how to be able to have text read to you on each of the devices. And then this you should do. It is very revealing. Try it yourself. How to remove the distractions while you read, how to get rid of the ads, how to customize the view of the information, how to enlarge it so that it's, for some people, the print is too close together and they need it larger. And so you can, all of that's here. Very, very, very cool. So have fun, learn much. Other ones, there's resources for people with specific disabilities. Great stuff. Microsoft, the accessibility. Let's go to that one and let me show you. Microsoft has a huge amount of material online. But if we scroll down here and we go to learn how to use the tools. Okay. And then if we come up here to Word, and there's more on the page, I'm just showing it. Working with keyboard shortcuts, using the screen reader that's already in Word. How to type with your voice, how to use immersive reading. These things are really, really useful. Very, very cool. They also talk about accessibility, but through Apple and Google and the browsers. Here is your color contrast checkers. Mandalee did a magnificent presentation yesterday, and her favorite is the WebAIM one. I used the one that you saw the video on, but they both do the same thing. And so you just find what you like. They're all free. Making your audio, video, and presentations accessible. That's going to be important. We're going to need to do that. And then here is the presentation done by Penny Pearson, and it's fully accessible. So you're going to be able to have the transcript and everything is there, showing you the kinds of things that if you're truly taking this into consideration, that you'll do. They also have one here about making audio and video media accessible, how you should present. And this is something I'm still in the middle of so that I can make it so that if somebody is listening, how they can also participate and see the things. Okay, so lots of good stuff that's available to you here. All right, let's go back. No, let's not. I'll show you my website.
Debbie, we have 2 minutes.
Oh, I thought we went until 12.
You're right. I looked at the wrong sheet. Sorry. 32 minutes. Bye.
That's okay. Heart attack, heart attack. Okay. All right. But that means we've got 2 minutes to show you these because then I want to be demonstrating how to use it. Okay, this is my where I put my presentations. The website is here so that you can access it. And what you'll see here is the presentations. And then you'll also see, if you come up here, gotta move my to accessibility resources, you'll see all of the videos that we've watched. Okay, so you can have access to them to be able to show people. And then you have here, coming up slowly, my list of accessible resources for you to be able to use. And it's being quite slow coming up. But I wouldn't show them to you anyway because we've just seen the set that's accumulated by OTAN, but that's where they are. Now, also up here, we have practice accessibility. And this is a place where I have put documents in Word and PowerPoint, and I'm certainly hoping that they're going to come up so that I can demonstrate and so that you can demonstrate, because you're the voice. There's not many of you here today. You are the beginners, and you will become the experts when you go back to your facilities and to your schools. And so you're going to be able, you're going to want to be able to demonstrate to them what they can do to make the changes. And so these are documents. There's 2 in Word and there's 2 in PowerPoint. So let's just go to the first one and start it. Okay. Slow on the uptake, my goodness. All right, this is a standard document. You've seen it before. I mean, this is the stuff we do, right? We've got graphs, we've got charts, we've got images. Okay, so, but this won't pass. Let's take a look at the accessibility checker. Oh, you know what? All right, because this is a Google site, this is housed in Google, but I need Microsoft. And so I need to change it. Let me show you how you do that. Come over to File, and you go down to Download as Microsoft. Okay. Phew. All right. Here's the document down in the lower left. It opens up in Word. And so here we have it in Word. Okay. Now, if you can't see something that I'm doing, let me know and I'll move it around. Okay, this is a Latin document, and that's why there's red lines under everything, because they can't read it, but that's all right. We'll just ignore that. What's missing? First, right off the bat, what do you see that's missing?
Headers.
Well, yeah, the headers, but there's no title to the document. So you started this and you didn't even put a title in. So let's put a title in, and this is the end of year report, ABC Company. Spell report right. Okay, so you're correct on the headers. So when I come up here and highlight this, when I come up to them, and they have this mini box that makes it so I can do things faster, but I'm going to come up here and show you the full one that's up here. This is the styles right here. They call them styles right here, and that's where the headers are. So if I open that up and I want to get my title, there we go. Okay. So that's done. And notice that it also did something about the spacing. I told you, you're not going to use your enter key because the headers take care of it. It's all built in. So then the next one, let's go up here and let's pick header. I want to open it up so we can see it. There we go. I'm going to go with header 1. Okay. And this next one, the executive summary. And this, now that I got the hang of what I want, I can come here and do it. We'll do that one. And then the next one. The next one. But you can see that this is not hard to do. Okay. You can just go down. You can do them all. You can also do them as you're going through. And just be sure you put your headers in and that you're consistent so that you're not going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. All right. Now, one thing you notice, this was me. This was me saying, I need to have more space. And so there's an extra space right there. So go back and take them out. You only want the space that the screen reader is going to see. It's going to see the headings. You don't want to add anything extra because they'll just say extra space. Oh, right now. There we go. Okay, now that's looking pretty good. What should I do with the chart? This is where alt text comes in. Let's go up and do the screen reader. I'm doing it because I know that this is what I need to look for, but let's have the screen reader help us. Not the screen reader, the accessibility checker. So that's going to be here with, it's under review. And it says check accessibility. Okay, and they have listed check accessibility, alt text, navigation page, pane, excuse me. So let's go do the checker, and they're telling us errors. And those are the things that you must change. If they were tips, it's kind of like, well, okay, maybe, but errors you need to change. And notice that they're saying there's missing alternative text here. Okay, so I'm going to check it and I'm going to add a description to it. All right, and this is chart, bar graph, say bar graph, bar graph, sorry, showing percentage, it's showing threshold, sorry, I need to show that because that's what this actually is up, threshold percentages. And then you could continue and you could put between the age groups and you could add a little bit more, but I'm not going to do that right now. Notice this little box down here that says mark as decorative. If you click that, the screen reader skips it. And sometimes it is just decorative. Maybe I will put the company's logo on or Microsoft or something like that. And it's not necessary to read. It doesn't enhance it. It's just a visual thing. Then you can mark them as a decorative and it will skip those over. Okay, now this is the graph that shows the data for that. So you have offered a secondary source of information for them. Okay, now what about the image? Let's come here to the image, and I just clicked in it, and over here they have told me what they think I want. They say it's a person posing for the camera, but that's not what I want. That's not useful. So I'm going to say young woman, surprised by message on her phone. Okay, something like that. So you are expressing for your reader what you want them to see. Okay, all right, so I've got that done. Now let's come back up here to this little one up here at the top, and then now it's saying no accessible issues found. First time that ever happened for me, I whooped for joy. All right, but we can make it better still. Remember I told you that a table of contents really makes it so that they can find the section they want to read. So all you have to do is find where you want to put the table of contents. I'm going to put it right there. And then I'm going to go to, nope, it's not you. References. Always forget that one. Okay, and here it is. It's on the left, table of contents. And they give you some choices of how they're going to make it look. And you just click it and it's done. That was not hard. That was very cool. Any questions? All right, I'm going to, yes.
Yes, I have. It's just more a comment regarding the graphs. As a math teachers, always find it's really hard for me to do the alt text, because if I get to the sections teaching students how to read the graph, if I describe the graph in the alt text, it's like I'm giving away the answers. And then if I provide the text as a table, then that defeats the purpose of teaching the student how to read the graph. And I always struggle with that. I always don't know what to do with that.
Excellent question. I'm glad you brought it up. And I read somewhere something that I was surprised by, but I was pleased with. The first time I was presented with this, and the idea we didn't even talk about, but see how her image is here on the left. That is something you do for the screen reader. So I can't center her. I can't right align her. She needs to be left aligned, which if you think about it, gets kind of boring.
Yeah.
Right? And you're just going, this isn't cool. But one of the suggestions they made was to make two documents. One that's going to be accessible and one that's going to be artistic for your sighted people. And so you can have one. It would not be hard. You make the accessible document. And then when you come down to your chart where you're concerned that you're giving away the information, you just take out the alt text. And then that's the one you give to your students that are going to, you don't want to give it away. They need to learn to read the graph, but you have a document that's available for people who can't read the document, and they're going to be struggling to try and do it. So see if that helps. All right. Yes. Okay. I'm going to go to save.
Danny, could I mention something about white papers?
Yes.
Okay, when you're, and this is for text, this isn't for math teachers, but English teachers have the same problem. You know, they want to put in a picture or something because their students are visual. If you create a white paper is just text. It just describes, it has the same exact information on it that the, let's say, PowerPoint has on it. The white paper can be used for your visually impaired students rather than the PowerPoint, as long as they're getting the same information. So that's something else to consider as well. So maybe you're making this great PowerPoint with a bunch of visuals and you know, things sliding in and sliding out and everything. It's great for your visual students, but for someone who is impaired visually, that white paper is going to do the same thing for them, just in a different way.
Yeah. There are ways. We just
How
haven't
do
even
you,
thought of them.
I'm sorry, how do you make a white paper from a document? Is it a conversion, or you have to like just take out all
You have to
the
type
visuals?
everything. You have
Ah,
to type everything. So it's text. A white paper is just text of a textual description of the other the other one.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it takes more work. It takes more work,
yes,
but it is
definitely.
worth it.
Because I'm editing a lot of OER textbooks in Word, and what I run to is that you know, if we graph the images as squared in document, then you know we save a lot of space and also make the document looks nicer. But at the same time, I need to add a captions for that image, and then there's the only way in Word right now to add a captions for that square wrap text is another text box, and text box is a no. So, and then have to group that text box with the image so that when we move the image, the image will just the captions will follow us around, and that's another no. So and when you edit like a few hundred pages of documents and you you have like 100 images or something like that, and created like another version, maybe it's a lot of work, but maybe it's a way to go. I haven't thought of that things.
All I can offer, because you're right on all counts. It's a lot of work. All I can offer is that you get with your department and you spread the work, and you work from here forward, and then you take pieces that you're going to be using from there, and because they're already created, you don't have to work on that part. You can just work on this, and it's a process that's going to take time.
Yeah.
That's you're absolutely
right. Yeah, I'm so guilty using table to display images as well, because I haven't figured out a way to get around that yet.
Well, now your images all to be they need to be left aligned, so that takes care of the creation. There you go. You don't have to worry about it now. I know. And like I said, the first time I went through this, I was kind of devastated, because first of all, realizing I was doing everything wrong. Second, looking at the load of work to be done, but there's so much there to help you. Like you saw how easy it was to create that table of contents. And if you know you got to put styles in, you just do them as you go along. And okay, having to have a second source of information, especially for a math teacher. Okay, there are whole sections of about how to help with math. We didn't look at them, but they're there. And so just take time and learn, and deep breath, but realize that you are helping so many people as you do this. And then you'll be the expert and everybody will come to you. You'll be teaching them all. Okay, let's take a look at this PowerPoint presentation. If we look at the slides, they look pretty good. You know, they've got titles, they've got text. The text is big enough. It doesn't have the wrong type of font. They've got images. It looks good. So let's come up here and first of all, I've got to put it in PowerPoint. Let's see. Download, that's where I want it. Okay. My machine, for some reason, is being quite slow today. Was earlier better, less better now. Okay, there we go. All right, I'm going to move it over. It came up on my other screen. Okay, there you go. And it does. It looks pretty decent. All things considered, I'd say, you know, okay, we've got it. So let's do our check accessibility. Okay, so here we go, check accessibility. And we've got errors, serious stuff, missing slide titles. Wait, I've got titles. Okay, and then the alternative text, there's no, they've got some they've suggested. So let's take a look at it. So I'm going to click on it. I'm going to go to slide 1, and then they have something new. Now, I'm going to tell you something I discovered yesterday. PowerPoint is evolving, just like all of the Microsoft and all of the others, they're evolving. So if you have a computer and your version of PowerPoint is 2016, it's not going to look the same. Okay. And you're going to come up here to File, and you're going to go to Info, and that's where you're going to find the accessibility check right here, Inspect Presentation. Now, I don't have to do that because my version, I'm using 365, has it all built in right here. And when I open this one, it has set as a slide title. So it's doing it for you. Okay. So just realize that when you go home and you try this, I'm not a liar. It's just depending on your version where this is going to be. This is telling me, do you want that set as your slide title? And I say, well, yeah, thank you. So I go to the next one and they do the same thing. See how easy they make this? And notice they can add it as a hidden slide title. So they could have that, but it would be behind, and so that the person seeing it wouldn't see it. So it does offer you that as an option. Okay, and so our last one, I'm doing so great. Ta-da! Okay, so now let's go through the alternate text. Okay, the first one, first page. Let's open it up. This is the recommended one that they gave. And they asked me to approve their description, but this is their description. A picture containing indoor sitting table and food. I don't know who was drunk when they tried to figure that out, but that's not anything useful. So I'm going to say rolls of raw clay. Okay, so that one's done. I come back up here to go to the next one. And again, they've got something that they recommend. They're saying this is a group of people sitting at a table. I had missed the fact that there was a lady over there in the left corner, but that's not what I want. I want woman pouring plates. All right, and then go to the next one. And this is a close-up for flowers. That's not bad, except I need to say it's clay flowers. Okay. All right. So now I have solved my accessibility. Now, did you notice that under each image, we also have the citation for where the images come from? Just as accessibility is now blossoming and coming forth, we are also seeing that citations and giving people credit for the images and the things that they have created are happening more and more. And so there are websites that you can get free images like Unsplash and Pixabay, and there's others. And so you can get those things and be sure to put those on your screens. Now, notice also that when I used those titles correctly, it created the table of contents so that the sighted person or the person who is not sighted and is trying to figure out what they're seeing or supposed to be seeing is available for them. All right, let's go back. All right, we looked at these sites. So we're going to quickly go through them to remind you of them, of all the cool stuff that's available. These were modules from Microsoft and buried in all of that. They're great. They even tell you how long they are so that you know how much time you're going to need. And we didn't even touch PDFs. That's got to be another, maybe that's a part 3. And then my favorite of the personalization that you can teach your students. Okay, so how do you start? Okay. Plan. This is going to take more time. And so it factors in. Learn more about how to do it and what you're needing to do. Start with things that are small. Don't start with your whole math book. just start small. Work in teams if you can. Make this a department thing where you share the workload and you share the results. And then don't worry about yesterday. Tomorrow is what matters, and intent counts for something. And so if you are working on these things, that's what you tell. You say, yep, we're working on that. We are trying to make these documents or this department or whatever accessible. Now, this was my list. Practice using the Microsoft Accessibility Checker and the tools so that they become something that you're comfortable with. You know where the different parts are. You may have to Google where is the accessibility checker in this version of Microsoft PowerPoint. Practice using the color contrast analyzer. Go to the National Center on Accessible Educational Materials to create and use them. Go through those. Go through the OTAN resources. This word cloud just shows everything you're facing. Implementation, understanding, guidelines, the initiatives that are out there. Making more than one method of navigation for the student. On and on and on. It is large. But the outcome is going to be remarkable. You're going to make it so that people who have not had access will have access. I remember explaining to my grandchildren when they finally saw The Wizard of Oz that I used that image of going through the door and having the world in color to be like helping people with accessibility. You suddenly make the world a place where they're not just a token help, it's real help. And the funny thing is as you do this, these best practices are going to make, they're going to make everything better for all your students. I use closed captioning. Whenever I watch a British television show, I put on, I swear they're not speaking English. And I put on closed captioning. These things that are out there and available, you just need to find them, share them with your students, and so that they can start being responsible for the people around them that also may need help. For a copy of the presentation, I know that I did send it to the conference. I can't tell you where it is, but this is where you can find it so that you can have it as well. Now, I'm going to stop sharing and questions that I can answer. I've either put you all to sleep or I've so overwhelmed you that you just don't know where to start.
I just have a comment that I've had a blind student in my math class last semester, and he was so helpful to point out to me places where in my Canvas shells and my documents that was not really helpful to him. So I learned so much from him, and he helped me to improve my class so much. Well, obviously there's still a lot of more work that need to be done, but you know, if you have a blind student in your class, you know, you can enlist their feedback so so you can improve your material.
Absolutely true. I had a student who had cerebral palsy, and so he had great limitations with being able to use the keyboard and things like that. But what I learned from him and how I worked with the other students it was powerful. He was so valuable in the class. I had a couple of weeks later, one of the students came in and said, "He's smarter than we are, isn't he?" And I said, yes, he is. Because they didn't understand the disability. And so then from then on, they learned from him, and the class was so good. So yes, the more we make our classes accessible, the more people will come because they'll know that they can succeed in your class. And it will be a wonderful thing for you, I promise. Other questions or things that we can talk about? I think we need a
Maybe.
part 2.
I have a question.
Yes, Christine.
So for documents that are like brochures and handbooks and things that, you know, you're trying to make look engaging for students who may, you know, don't want a text heavy document, is really the goal that you do 2 versions of it?
That was offered to me as a choice. And I looked at that and I think that at times I feel like that. But on the other hand, I can do as many images as I want. I can just use alt text. I can do the headings and stuff, which automatically creates a table of content, and that's good for everybody. So a lot of these things, as you get to know them, you won't feel like they're just taking all your creativity away from you. You'll be able to use it, but that is an option. If there's something that you feel that it needs to be and look a certain way, you can have a second document. Melinda, did you have something?
My camera came on, sorry.
Well, I just thought that you had something that you were going to add because you have worked with this so
No,
much.
I have, and just, I mean, a second document is an option, like Debbie said. I have a couple of second documents that are text-based only, because when I got looking at the slides deck that I have, it wasn't going, no matter what I did to it, it wasn't going to be equitable for a screen reader. So that's why I opted to do a white paper on a couple of presentations. And they were presentations, they weren't workshops that we do, because those we have to make accessible no matter what. So just one little point that came up when Debbie, when you were talking about, you know, we have to make things accessible, and your student that was, you know, he's so smart, even though he's disabled, you know, our students need to know that. So when we make things accessible, we're making them equitable. We're creating a norm. We're creating a norm. You know, like, yes, there are people out there that can't see, that can't hear, that can't walk. And it's okay. They're here.
Yeah.
And we're doing this for them. And then all of your other students see that and it's, oh, okay, they're normal. Right? They're
That's
normal.
part of it, isn't it? Isn't that part of it? What we as teachers are to do is to create a world in which we can all work together. And
Yes.
that's what this all does.
And it's so powerful. I am going to, please ask Debbie some questions. I'm going to post something in the chat.
We have 3 minutes left. We need to put the evaluation in. Yes, you did it just there, everybody. So it's in there.
And please do the evaluation. It's not only for TAP. You're not doing this just for TAP. You're doing it for Debbie as well. So presenters love to get feedback, and they love to make improvements from that feedback, or they love hearing that everything was perfect. I mean, whatever. Please do the evaluation if you do nothing else. There are several other sessions going on. Essential Ed is doing a presentation during lunch. There are jam sessions at 1 o'clock, and then the last session starts at 2:30. So I put the conference schedule in there for you as well. Click on that, figure out what you want to go to. And
one more comment. In your evaluation, please add what you want to know next, because I think we need a part 2. I think we need a part 3. And so tell me what those should be so I can get started working on them. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. I feel I've made a complete circle around. I feel that accessibility is vitally important and will make all of our classrooms better. It will assist all of our students.